This will be a quick tutorial just to talk about a simple way to make something look sort of 3D in After Effects by making it look like the lighting is changing on the surface. And all we're using here is a simple two effects, set matte and turbulent displace, and then just a little expression to link two attributes. So this is meant to be kind of a satellite that is coming into view from the bottom, and you can see the light source is meant to be from the right, and so as it changes angle, the light should also change angle on this reflective cylindrical surface. Okay, so just to show you what we've got going on here, there's an adjustment layer on top. It's turned off right now. That's just to change it to 12 frames per second with posterized time. This controller null, everything is parented to it, and I'm just animating that. It's easier to just swap in and out different shapes as I work on this. Just a yellow rectangular shape, a reddish rectangular shape, the satellite bottom, which is just an ellipse, and then the satellite body, which is a rectangle that's been deformed slightly or altered slightly to look more cylindrical. Right, so the first thing about making something look 3D is that you change the shapes to look 3D, but we want to focus on making that lighting effect. So let's just turn off these two, and we'll go somewhere kind of where it's upright. Now, I should probably do this before I've got the null objects, but it doesn't really matter. Just deselect everything, go to my shape tool, and just drag this down. So this will be one of my shapes. I'll make this a slightly yellower color to be our highlight area. Okay, and we're going to choose Set Matte as an effect for this. So if I just type Set Matte, spell it correctly, double click, and then in the Set Matte effect, all we want to do is change the Take Matte from layer to the satellite body, and then you can see it's cut off by that. The whole layer still exists, the shape still exists, but it's only visible where it's sitting over top of the satellite body. So it makes a nice effect. Now, of course, we want to link this to the controller null. Right, so when we animate this now, it just follows along. So even that looks pretty good. But let's add some effects here, or change it first so it rotates, because right now it kind of implies the light is coming from the upper right, but then here it implies that it's coming from the sort of mid right, which still looks pretty good actually, but the null object is rotating, so we can use that rotation to our advantage and just invert it so the yellow rectangle always stays upright. So let's name this. Yellow demo, and then if we hit R for rotation, Alt click on the stopwatch, and then we will just open up rotation on controller null and pick whip from the yellow demo rotation expression onto rotation of controller null. Right, so now it's just matching the rotation exactly, and that actually works pretty well. Or no, it doesn't. I think we have to multiply it, so the value we get from that, so we're multiplying by -1, which is essentially reversing the rotation of the controller null. Yeah, that makes more sense. So so then when we get to 0, then 0 times -1 is just negative, it's just 0. But when it rotates other ways, it's always sort of keeping this edge upright, facing towards this light source over here. So I suppose if you needed to have an offset, offset would be accomplished with a value added onto this. I don't need it, but if we put this into brackets and then did, plus 45, close brackets, multiplied by -1, then we would get an offset. So like the light source was up here. Did this work? Yeah, so it's making it work. So as it rotates, still making it look like the light source is up there. Now, of course, there's a problem here. It gets cut off, but it doesn't really matter because we can still go into the contents of this rectangle, and this is, still a procedural. I didn't turn it into a Bezier path, so I can disconnect the X and Y size and just increase the Y size a bit. Right, so kind of the illusion of the 3D object falls apart a little bit here, just because it's too broad, because why would you have light being cast onto the back of this? Now this is sort of making it look like there's a light source from up here. So let's change our ramp to, so this is on the background. So if I change this to this and swap colors, where's my other point? Let's move this way out here. Right, so now we've got something like this, but I think it's, the object is way too big. So let's reduce this and move it over a bit. Now my background color is way too close. So let's just change that background color to, I don't know, something else. I mean, it kind of makes sense if it's space that they should kind of match, right? Because there's no light falling on it. But okay, let's see. Does this work? Yeah, kind of. I mean, it still doesn't make total sense here. Maybe it's just going to have a little bit more light on it now. Okay, and let's duplicate this layer and move this one over a bit, increase its size. Oops, wrong one. I could hit UU to open this up to get to the things I need to change. So let's put this one under the original yellow. And name this one orange. And change color to be orange. Right, so we're going to have something like that. In some ways, it doesn't work quite as well as the original. The illusion is not as strong, so let's just fix it. Let's go back to the original scenario. I guess I opened up everything here foolishly. Let's go to our background layer, go to the gradient, and I'll just make it look like the light source is coming from over here. And then we can just go back into our two objects rotation. Open these up and just get rid of that plus 45 and the brackets so we don't get an error. And just copy this and paste this. Right, so now it looks like the light source is sort of to the right and off in the distance a little bit. So you can see how flexible this is. I can easily just move the orange one over a bit, grab the yellow one, move it over to change the effect. I think the orange one needs to go a little bit farther. I think they both need to go a little bit farther, just to make it a little more interesting. Right, so we got the same thing. They're both linked to the controller null. So the last thing we can do is, if we want to, we can add a turbulent displace. Now this doesn't work perfectly, and I haven't solved a way to figure this out. So turbulent displace. So I just want to make sort of a bit of a less perfect edge here, as if there's sort of ripples on the metallic surface of this thing. Of course, we don't want the edges here, so we can solve that easily just by, in the effects stack, putting set matte after that. And what you'll see the limitation here is that when it moves, it's kind of swimming through the noise here. Oh, it needs to be a bit wider here. Although, maybe that looks good. Maybe that looks like the light is coming this way. Are we happy with that? No, it kind of flashes too quickly. But anyway, so it moves through here, and I thought maybe we could take the turbulent displace and, link the offset to the null position or something, but I can't seem to make it work. I'm not sure why. Maybe we could, negate that movement or something. I don't know. Let's just try that. I don't think that this is going to work, but if we alt-click on offset here, and then we link it to the controller null position, so it's the Y position here, and okay, I'm realizing I'm out of my depth here a little bit. This comp controller null transform Y position. Can we do times -1 again? Will that do anything that makes sense? Nope. So there's probably a way to do this. I'm just going to break this connection. Oops. So there's probably a way to link that so it's not sort of swimming through the texture, so it moves with it, but I don't know how to do it. So let's just fix this. And let's make this a little bit wider, just so it doesn't get cut in the corner there. Let's move it over a tad. And in the turbulent displace, let's just increase the size, or keep a high size but reduce the amount. And let's copy the same thing, and we will move it over to the orange layer. And of course it has to happen after set matte, or sorry, before set matte, so it gets cut off. There you go. So pretty easy. You could try different things like a roughen edges if you wanted to have a different sort of edge on the top part here. And if I want to just go up here and change to 12 frames per second, just with the adjustment layer with posterized time turned on, get sort of a different look, which actually looks very similar to me. Actually, that looks a little better. And if you wanted to, you could easily just duplicate this layer now, move it over a tad, and make this, an even lighter color, almost white. And all the connections are still there. So we can make something like that pretty easily. You can see the turbulence displaces are exactly the same. You could, if you wanted to make them a little bit different, you could just random seed them, I guess. Where is that? Turbulent displace, evolution, pinning. Oh, maybe there's no random seed. Well, you could simply just, oh, there's a random seed. So just change it to a different number. can be a little different, or you can just you could just cycle through the evolution. Or change any of the values. So, if I change this to have a slightly greater amount, then it will look different. And lastly, now I'm just sort of stating the obvious now, but if you wanted to make it look like the light source was kind of coming around to the front, you could easily just animate the positions of these things, right? So if we go to P here, and we could separate these dimensions just to make life easier. So we could make the orange layer X position, over a second. Just have it move slightly this way. Then same thing with yellow. Sorry, not Y position, but X position. And move it over. And as you'd imagine, do the same thing with the white layer. Just move it over a bit. Now it should move about the same amount. I wasn't really very careful with that. And we can just easy ease these. Keyframe Assistant. I can't use my shortcuts because I'm recording. So we can just take a look. Right, as if the light is moving a little closer to us. Probably make more sense if there was a little less space between them when it gets there, so we're seeing more of the light struck region. So let's just fix that. So X yellow should move over a little more, and white should move over even more. I don't know if this will work, but let's try it, and we'll just preview this part. Yeah, I think that works. Maybe orange just has to move over a bit. Doesn't seem to make perfect sense. It's a little fast to make it slow down, but anyway, you get the idea. So this is just a simple way to play with shape layers and set matte effect, turbulent displace, and really that's it. And you can make a lot of interesting things happen. So give it a shot, and good luck.